part of this TPD Round Table discussion was intended to consider the moral hazards that are sometimes associated with TPD insurance. But very quickly, the conversation turned to a focus on how important it is to offer the client options and flexibility to deliver product solutions, especially for TPD insurance in 2023 and beyond. And it was pointed out by the panel that the importance of options and flexibility is perhaps as great now as it's ever been, because there's so much pressure on premiums. So have a listen to what your peers have to say, and once again, see what you think.
Let's stick with you, Chris, as we sort of segue into the conversation about moral hazard and what I'm calling moral conflicts with regard to TPD. As a guy, and as several people have already mentioned, the introduction of income protection insurance in the 1980s delivers alternatives for the consumer. What's your take on where things are at the moment with regard to large sums insured being a moral hazard for anyone with a TPD contract, which incentivises them to stay TPD and to claim, and also whether or not individuals are overinsured through the nature of income protection insurance combined with TPD contracts. What's your experience with both of those things?
I don't see the moral. I mean, we would advise on the need to replace that. It's never about having a win as a client for us, and I think pricing is going to dictate that. That's people just can't afford to do that. So I don't buy into the moral thing. I think you give advice to cover a need that's sitting in front of your client. They'll all have different risk appetites and different wants if something goes wrong, but I think you've just got to go on face value, and every client has a budget. You know, as Guy said before, it's not you can't do everything for everyone. Now it's just a bit more specialised advice around, okay, you got a budget of this, how can we fit it all in and best cover your needs using the variety of products around? You know, is it shorter IP benefits and then TPD to back that up? Yeah, you got to look at the risk strategy of, okay, in these 4 or 5 scenarios, what do we want to happen and what product is going to best suit that, and how can we work that within the budget?
Does anyone like to comment on that?
Chris? Do you feel like today in the market you have the products you need to construct cover for the needs of your clients, and in particular for TPD, where those needs might be replacing income and paying for really large ongoing costs as a result of an event? Because to me, I see those as 2 quite different needs that are all trying to be covered by the same product today. So do you think you have the tools in place to
We've
serve
got the
products
to cover everything, but the affordability is going.
Okay.
So that's where there needs to be some compromises around, and probably more specialised advice around, well, how we're going to work this properly. As I said, I think gone are the days of straight to a ratings house. Yeah, you've got dealer groups driving. If it's not the top rating product, you can't recommend it because there's liability there or whatever. I think there just needs to be more flexibility. Advisors, if you specialise in insurance, you should know your stuff inside out. I have no problem advising you to have a TPD contract with a mental health exclusion if that's in line with our package, and we've got income protection, you're comfortable with that, you're well aware that contract isn't going to cover that. That's fine. That's just part of giving good advice, and I think people got to stop being afraid of giving advice for the sake of getting hit over the knuckles by asking and get back to what's in the best interest of their customer and covering their needs.
Absolutely.
Or their licensee or whoever it is.
Yeah. Okay.
And start advising without fear. And I think at the moment we're in a bit of a perfect storm. You've got price pressure here. You've got the regulators trying to free up, allowing more people to give advice because they know. You know, I know dealing in professional services, all our work, the bulk of our work comes through large planning firms that just don't want to advise. Insurance, no, not interested, can't do it, it's too risky, we don't know the difference between the old and IP, we're just not going to deal with it. And that's not a great solution for the end consumer. It's great for our business because we end up doing all that work, but I think the market's got to get back to freedom within being able to give solid advice that's applicable. We've still got to stand by advice. I don't think covering off on the compliance risk of me recommending that you don't have mental health in your TPD, because part of our objective was to keep your premiums manageable and everything else, and I articulate that in the advice.
It might have been covered in the RP policy.
Yeah,
so
and there's been too much trepidation to give proper advice, but I think you've got pricing where it has to happen now, because if it doesn't happen, what's the outcome? They just cancel.
Yeah.
Knee-jerk reaction, they get another 30% increase, cover gone, which is a really poor outcome for the client. So a lot of our conversations are around, we can't afford this 40 grand worth of premium, it's ridiculous, what can we do to bring it back? We've got it, and that's where we've got to have these conversations, old IP, replacing it with new, pulling back things, whatever we need to do, but that's just part of it.
We've got to stop treating the clients like idiots.
Yeah.
You know, and we're almost forced to treat them like idiots at the moment. The way I present to clients, I present on an option base.
Yeah.
So if we've got mental health exclusions as an option, I'm really happy to go to Chris and go, your $1 million worth of TPD with mental health is going to cost you $300 a month. Without mental health, it's going to cost you $200 a month. You give me direction. That not only gives him the outcome he wants, it gives me a level of protection that I don't have if I say you should take the one without the mental health, because then I think
unfortunately you won't be offered both, because by the nature of offering both, you'll have the people who don't think they're risk going into one side and the heavy risk going.
We've been offered both for years in one form or another with different products.
It's been interesting because for IP, we used to offer a product with a mental health exclusion for both the Zurich brand and the One Path brands.
Did that sell?
No, it did not.
It did not. Yeah.
But it's like critical illness. We had products that paid the claim according to the level of the condition.
Severity.
Did that sell? No, of course it didn't.
Yeah,
because
we've done one in New Zealand.
yeah, okay, fine.
So it's like
not
an
here.
accident, like you used to buy life policies, but you only could claim on an accident. Like who knows how they're going to die?
Did you have the heart attack before you hit the
bus, or,
But price is going to drive it. So
of course
it's like the IP changes, okay? So when it first came in, there wasn't a huge difference between the two. Now, backbooks are getting absolutely jacked up through the roof because the insurers obviously want to get those people. So all of a sudden, the gap between new and old is that significant. But the consumers, the clients are going to want to have a conversation around.
and
So
clients
it's
are.
like mental health exclusions coming into the product is a response to the higher prices, what you're saying. It wouldn't have sold before when price was 50%, 100% lower.
Yeah, if they can cover everything, that's fine. I think still now, if you had two TPD, you had the TPD that covers everything, and then you had the one, say, without mental health in it, which might be 30% cheaper or whatever. You still might have consumers that can afford it. So,
100%.
I'll pay a sustainable price for it that everyone makes.
Don't say you can't do it, because we've got own occupation and any occupation.
They've got the choice.
It's exactly the same thing.
Absolutely.
And I think one of the other things that this product's let down a lot is there seems to have been a weakness from a claims perspective that I've seen over the last 30 years, say, where an any occupation claim is almost treated the same as an own occupation claim. I can't remember who said it earlier. I think it might have been Carly. The new reality is that people are going to have 10 jobs during their career. Any occupation? That's a lot of scope for a claims manager. And a lot of the mental health conditions, I'm sure, are actually brought on by the own occupation. You know, I'm in a really stressful environment. I'm getting hammered on all sides at work. But I'd be happy, I would be more than capable of going working in a stress-free environment. It mightn't pay as much. That's not a criteria for claims.
In terms of the mental health and having exclusions in the products and optionality in the products to reduce the costs, we've talked about the challenges of having had that in the past and it not being taken up. You've touched on the environment changing and cost pressures, maybe making that a different case today. So that maybe that is something for us as an industry to explore, having products that behave differently depending on the severity of the condition.